Shaquille O'Neal seemed to be reveling in Jarrett Allen outperforming Rudy Gobert head-to-head in a Nets win over the Jazz. That, of course, after Shaq pointed out how much he thought he would obliterate Gobert head-to-head. A penchant for Shaq to say how much he would dominate current big men today. For more, I'm here with our Ben Pickman and the fantasy exec Corey Parson. And guys, that leads to a question. Would Shaq be more or less dominant today? And this one's tough for me because I think he would actually be more dominant head-to-head relative to his competition. You know, you don't have Tim Duncan, Akeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, but he may be less dominant in the way the game is played with teams spreading you out. Like, how would he fare defensively against some of these modern-day bigs who could shoot the ball, Corey?
Yeah, no, I think you make excellent points when it comes to how Shaq would play in today's game. I kind of look at it as a little bit of both, but I think I would err to the side that he would be less dominant simply because he was not a three-point shooter. And you look at today's game, a lot of the big men shoot that three, and you're right, spreading them out. And then when you get up and down the court in transition, you know, you got to wait for Shaq to get down the court, especially in his later years. But the bottom line of the matter is I still think that he would be a great inside presence. I still think he'd be very good defensively. You look at the fact of, I say he'd be a guy like a Joel Embiid minus a three. But when you get into the postseason and they get to that half-court game, I think Shaq would be just as dominant.
Yeah, I'm going to have to defend Shaq for a second because Embiid ain't on, you know, the Diesel's level. And I think he could put up cartoonish numbers, Ben, but would it be a situation where you might have to consider pulling him at the end of games?
I mean, I think he would be so dominant that you would still have to leave him in because of his presence on the inside. I agree. I mean, the three-point threat or lack thereof is the concern, right, with terms of Shaq's fit. He was just 1 of 22 in his whole career in terms of three-pointers made, that one being a bank triple at the end of a quarter on a heave, right? So not really an impressive make in that right either. But I just think his dominance and his presence on the inside would be so overwhelming that you would have to leave him in and that he would still be just as good as he was nowadays. I do think, though, that any team with Shaquille O'Neal would have to tailor their roster, right, specifically around Shaq. You would have to make sure that the other four guys on the court were capable three-point shooters and that you were still able to stretch the floor around Shaquille O'Neal. Because if you did surround Shaq with non-shooters, then I think you might have a team with some struggles. But I do think he would still be just as dominant.
Again, I wouldn't be worried about the offensive end. I think you're completely correct surrounding him with shooters, just like the defensive end where you have to switch and move your feet in space. Would that be a concern? Nevertheless, Shaq is going to be dominant in any era, and I would take him over Rudy Gobert.